quick, brief emergency update, shocking update from Ursula von der Leyen's speech yesterday at the security conference in Munich. Very impressive yet shocking speech from her. She brutally lays out with all clarity her playbook, her view on Europe for the next years into destabilization, war, crisis modus. It's completely shocking in that sense. You can find it all online. I will show a couple of snippets, but most people miss completely the structural implications her points race have on Europe and the path forward. So I will jump straight into that. She outlined a couple severe deep shifts for Europe going forward. First, she touched base on accelerated European integration for Ukraine by next year already, by 2027. So accelerated focus on that. That comes with activation logic around the NATO European Treaty NATO Article 42.7, which means mutual defense clause, once a member is integrated into that underlying article structure. Also, she raised points and touched base on a push to move foreign policy from unanimity to qualified majority voting. I will touch base later on that, what that means in detail. Individually, these shifts sound very technically, but together they change the architecture for Europe and the outlook, the path we are going to. I will give my opinion on this now at the end. And also when you combine this with the digital euro, of everything she touched base on, it all makes perfect sense, and you know exactly where we are heading here in Europe. Let's break this down one by one. If you value my content and you want to support me, the free and most simple thing to do is to subscribe and to smash that like button. Thank you. So first of all, Ursula made it very clear, Ukraine's path into the European Union must accelerate. Now understand this, European membership is not symbolic. It is totally structural. It integrates all the frameworks around budget, military obligations, all the legal setups, the frameworks behind, and also economic policy alignment and dependency within each other, within the European Union. Once inside, Ukraine falls under this Article 42.7. This clause states if a member is attacked, is under military constraints, others have an obligation to aid and assist. This is not optional. This is mandatory binding, legally binding. That means geopolitical escalation is automatically ensured once Ukraine falls into that treaty. Totally structured. The mutual defense clause is mandatory when triggered. She made that absolutely clear. The most important thing is Europe is slowly shifting from a loose economic union into something politically security-driven union, vocally, verbally pushing towards a war industry union. The real bombshell yet is the end of unanimity, as she said it. This is the core, she argued, Europe must move faster towards it. How? By shifting, exactly how she said it, by shifting foreign policy decisions from unanimity to qualified majority voting. Side note, from my point of view, her understanding of qualified majority voting, undefined. That refers to her same processing of how the European Union Parliament is voted for and how some politicians' understanding of bureaucratic processes have here in Europe, then we can all think of what direction this is going into. She explicitly stated the change for the treaty, we do not need to change the treaty for that, for the end of unanimity. We need to use the one we have, referring to the treaty. We need to be creative. She said this one by one. You need to understand the unanimity rule in the European Union means that all members must agree before a decision can be adopted in a certain policy area and direction. Even if one country votes or no, disagrees, the proposal fails, and she wants to get rid of that proposal. Translation one-to-one, to be clear, if the unanimity vote is ending, that means individual countries lose veto power. Decisions and power comes more controlled, upscale again, centralized, execution power on top fewer people control and decide, execution power becomes faster. Power consolidates like a pyramid upscale. Insane. This is a complete sovereignty shift. Resistance mechanisms disappear. Totally structural mechanics upwards. Core level of power consolidates, concentrates up there. At the same time, look at what is happening in Europe. The digital push for the digital CBDC, digital currency. Central banks are pushing for that, on the other hand. 2026, legal framework should be set up. All the bureaucratic regulatory framework set in place. Then in 2027, pilot programs set up to be started. And then in 2029, after current projected outlines on their own website, full rollout of the digital euro. This is not a side project. We all know what happens when the European euro is rolled out. Totally controllable, totally transparent. Financial suppression with a click on the button. You become controllable 100%. How to consume, interest rates, discrimination, spending, forced spending mechanisms. What can I say? It's all out there, plain in sight. When defense centralizes, power and control mechanisms all upscale, consolidates, concentrates, and centralizes, voting power weakens, and financial digital infrastructure is set up, you are witnessing not only system consolidation and a structural shift to be more controllable, everything is aligned politically, mechanically, militarily, monetary alignment. It's all synchronized evolution. It's all so set out plain in sight, written there. It's so evident where we are irrelevant here in Europe from an economic point of view. We have only structural problems, inflation, immigration, fiscally. The whole system is on the verge, on the brinks of collapse. Yet, when power centralizes during these crisis periods, capital controls become easier. Fiscal coordination becomes tighter. Surveillance by the government, by the state is easier, increases. Policy speed accelerates. And then with a click on the button, financial suppression, control, surveillance, everything becomes easier. Guys, if you ask me, it's all too obvious. If you connect the dots with everything I just said, the question isn't, is war coming? The question is rather, are you prepared? Are you agile, adaptive to move in this fragile and obviously shifting system? Are you recognizing the patterns? Europe is structurally redesigning itself under geopolitical pressure and its own domestic and national continental problems. Faster decisions are needed, power concentration needed, central defense obligation for unification, justifications for digital monetary infrastructure and reset. It's all plain out there. System analysis 1.0. What can you do about it? If systems consolidate and they snap and they are laying out their plan, all transparent, verbally clear, their playbook for what is happening, connecting the dots in the background. From my point of view, diversification of exposure is crucial. Just structurally thinking about the system shift we are facing. Geographic asset diversification, custody control, look at jurisdictional risk, liquidity outside a single system. Be flexible to move. Geographically, mentally, what are your dependencies here? How fast can you move from here? How fast can you access from a different location your assets? Do you have only one single source of failure, one single point of access to receive and get liquidity? Think outside the box, be agile, keep learning. Once the architecture is built, which we are seeing now, and it takes time, it doesn't get dismantled easily. You need to be on the verge and on the move. We still, in looking and considering the digital rollout phase and project, the advantage, the only one we have is the structural, bureaucratic, regulatory monster we have here in Europe also makes it hard for central banks, for institutions to execute and implement projects successfully until they are rolled out. So I wouldn't even doubt that 2029 is not feasible and it will be pushed further into the future. However, the time is clicking. Monetary shelf end life of the system is running out. We have big structural issues here in Europe, and it all connects. The question for me is not whether war is coming, a crisis, a catastrophes we are facing here in Europe. The question is, are you prepared? How prepared are we to move and see the reality playing out in our front of our eyes? How much more evidence do you need for these statements of what we are seeing? It's all playing out there. Do you understand the direction of structural changes, of upcoming crises we are facing? Europe is not collapsing today, but irrevocably in the next years and decade from my point of view. It's reorganizing the whole system, the whole incentives behind that. And reorganization under stress create very different incentive landscapes. But stay diversified, rational, stay ahead of this system. Insane what is out there, it's all too obvious.